The vast emptiness of space stretched in all directions as the Zephyrian exploration fleet moved through the star system. Commander Vexstar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars through the large viewing window. His forearms moved across the control panels as he checked their progress. The Zephyrians had been exploring this sector for weeks, looking for new worlds to claim for their empire. "Commander," called out Navigation Officer Zilkin from his station, "we are picking up something strange on our sensors." Vexstar turned his large head toward the officer. His purple skin gleamed under the bridge lights, and his 6 eyes focused on the display screen. "What kind of strange?" he asked in his deep voice. "It appears to be a ship, sir. But it is not moving. It is just floating in space near the edge of this system." The commander walked over to the sensor station, his tall frame casting shadows across the floor. He looked at the readings with interest. "Can you identify what type of ship it is?" Science Officer Kreeth, a smaller Zephyrian, with bright blue markings on her face, worked quickly at her console. "Sir, the ship appears to be human in design. Our database shows it matches the configuration of a Terran cruiser-class vessel." "Humans," Vexstar said with a grunt. The Zephyrians had heard stories about the humans who called themselves Terrans. They were a young species that had only recently started exploring space. Most alien races thought of them as primitive and not very dangerous. "The ship is called the TCS Defender according to our scans," Kreeth continued. "But sir, there is something very odd about the energy readings we are getting from it." "What do you mean odd?" the commander asked. Kreeth's 6 eyes blinked rapidly as she studied her instruments. "The energy patterns are unlike anything in our databases. At first, I thought our sensors were broken. The readings do not match any known technology." Lieutenant Velinara, the ship's security chief, stepped forward. She was shorter than the others, but had a reputation for being very skilled in combat. "Commander, should we be worried? Could this be some kind of trap?" Vexstar thought for a moment. The humans were known to be tricky, but their technology was supposed to be far behind that of the Zephyrians. "Show me the ship on the main screen," he ordered. The large viewing screen flickered and then showed the image of a damaged human warship floating in the darkness. The TCS Defender was about half the size of their flagship, with the typical boxy design that humans seemed to prefer. But even from a distance, they could see that the ship had been in a battle. Scorch marks covered its hull, and there were several holes where weapons had hit it. "It looks like it has been attacked," Velinara observed. "The damage is quite severe." "But sir," Kreeth H. added, her voice filled with confusion, "our sensors show that life support systems are still working on that ship. The power levels are actually quite strong, despite all the damage we can see." This made Vexstar pause. A ship that damaged should not have any power left at all. "How is that possible? Look at all that damage." "I do not know, sir. The energy readings are very strange. They show power levels that should not be possible for a ship of that size and design." The commander studied the image of the human ship more carefully. He had been in many battles and had seen many damaged vessels. Ships that looked like this one should be cold and dead in space. But their sensors clearly showed that something was keeping it alive. "Are there any life signs?" he asked. Kreeth worked at her console for several minutes before responding. "Sir, I am detecting 47 human life forms aboard the ship, but the readings are very faint and strange. It is almost like they are sleeping, but not sleeping." "What does that mean?" Velinara demanded. "I am not sure." "The biosigns are steady but very slow. Much slower than normal for humans who are awake and active." Vexstar made a decision. "We will board the ship and investigate. This could be valuable intelligence about human military capabilities." He turned to Velinara. "Prepare a boarding party. Take 20 soldiers and some science specialists." "Yes, sir. Should we expect resistance?" "Probably not. If there are only 47 humans aboard and they are in some kind of sleep state, they should not be able to fight back. But be careful anyway." As the crew prepared for the boarding mission, Kreeth continued to study the strange readings. From the human ship, the energy patterns made no sense at all. They seemed to pulse in ways that defied everything she knew about power systems and physics. "Commander," she called out, "I am detecting some kind of harmonic frequency coming from the ship. It is very faint, but it seems to be resonating through the hull itself. What could cause something like that?" "I have no idea, sir. It is not like anything we have ever encountered before." The boarding shuttle was ready within an hour. Velanara led the team of soldiers and scientists toward the mysterious human ship. As they got closer, they could see the damage even more clearly. Large sections of the hull were blackened and twisted from weapon impacts. "How is this thing still in one piece?" asked one of the soldiers over the communication system. "That is what we are here to find out." Velanar replied they found a docking port that was still intact and connected their shuttle to it. The airlock cycled normally, which surprised everyone. A ship this damaged should not have functioning. "Airlock systems. Be ready for anything," Velanara warned as they prepared to enter the human vessel. The first thing they noticed when they stepped aboard was that the lights were still working. Emergency lighting cast a red glow through the corridors, creating long shadows that seemed to move as they walked. The air was breathable, which meant life support was definitely still functioning. "This is impossible," whispered one of the science specialists. "A ship with this much damage should be completely dead." They moved carefully through the corridors, weapons ready, but they encountered no resistance. The ship seemed completely empty of active crew members. Their footsteps echoed strangely in the hallways, as if the metal itself was somehow different than it should be. "Velanara to flagship," she reported through her communicator. "We are aboard the human ship, no resistance so far. But there is something very strange about this place. The ship feels alive somehow." "Explain what you mean by alive," came Vextara's voice through the speaker. "I cannot explain it properly, sir. The ship just feels different, like it is watching us." As they moved deeper into the vessel, the strange feeling only grew stronger. Velanara and her team moved deeper into the human warship. The emergency lights cast strange shadows that seemed to dance along the walls as they walked. Every step they took echoed through the corridors in a way that felt wrong. The metal beneath their feet seemed to vibrate slightly, as if the ship itself had a heartbeat. "Squad leader," called out Specialist Cartel, one of the science team members, "I am getting very unusual readings from my scanner. The energy flows in this ship do not make sense." Velanara stopped and turned to face the scientist. "What kind of readings?" "The power distribution system should not be working at all with this much damage. But not only is it working better than it should when the ship was new." They continued down the main corridor toward the bridge. Along the way, they passed several human crew quarters. Through the open doors, they could see personal belongings scattered around, but no sign of the crew members themselves. "Look at this," said another team member, pointing to a wall panel. The display screen was still active, showing ship status information. "According to this, all primary systems are running at full capacity." Velanara studied the display. Even though she could not read human writing very well, the color codes were easy to understand. Green meant good, red meant bad. Almost everything on the screen was green. "That cannot be right," she said. "We saw the damage to this ship from outside. Half the hull has holes in it." They reached the bridge area and found it in surprisingly good condition. The command chairs were still in place and most of the control panels were working normally. The main viewing screen showed a clear image of space outside. "Squad leader," called out technical specialist Morden from one of the computer stations, "I found something interesting. This appears to be a personal log system." Velanara walked over to look at the screen. "Can you access the records?" "Yes, the security systems are not functioning. I can access most of the files." Morden worked at the controls for a few minutes. "Here is something. Personal log of engineer Ryan Clark, dated 3 days ago." The screen flickered and then showed the image of a human male. He looked tired and worried. Behind him, they could see flashing warning lights and hear alarm sounds. "Personal log, day 3 of the crisis," the human said in his strange language. The Zephyrian translation system worked quickly to convert his words. Primary power is down to 8%. Life support will fail within 6 hours. We have tried everything, but nothing works. Captain Morrison has ordered all hands to prepare for the worst, the log continued. Chief Park thinks she has found a solution, but it is very dangerous. She wants to try something that has never been tested before. She says it might save us or it might destroy us completely. At this point, we do not have much choice. The recording ended and the screen went dark. 3 days ago, Velanara said thoughtfully. But our sensors show that life support is working perfectly now. How is that possible? Morden searched through more files. Here is another log from the same engineer, recorded about 12 hours later. This time, the human looked even more tired, but there was something different in his eyes. Hope, maybe, or fear. The experiment worked, Ryan Clark said in the recording. I do not understand how, but it worked. Chief Park connected something to our main reactor, and suddenly everything changed. Power levels are not just stable, they are higher than they have ever been. He paused and looked around nervously. But something strange is happening to the crew. Everyone is feeling very sleepy. Chief Park says it is part of the process, that we need to trust the system. She says we will be safe, but we need to let go and allow the ship to take care of. Eus? The recording ended abruptly. Let the ship take care of them? Cartel said with confusion. Ships do not take care of people. People take care of ships. Velanara felt a chill run through her body. Search for more logs. I want to know what this Chief Park did to their reactor. As her team continued searching, through the ship's computer files, other squad members explored different sections of the vessel. Their reports came back through the communication system, and each one made the mystery deeper. Squad leader, this is Team 2 in the weapons section, came a voice through her headset. The energy weapons here are showing charge levels that should be impossible. According to our readings, these guns have more power stored in them than our own ship's main weapons. Team 3 reporting from life support, came another voice. The air recycling systems here are working perfectly, but they are processing air for over 200 people. This ship only has a crew of 47. Team 4 in engineering, reported yet another voice. Squad leader, you need to see this. The reactor readings are completely impossible. Velanara decided to go to engineering herself. She left half her team on the bridge to continue searching through the computer files and took the others with her toward the lower levels of the ship. As they moved through the corridors, the strange vibration in the floor became stronger. It was not just a mechanical vibration anymore. It felt more like a pulse, steady and rhythmic. Does anyone else notice that? Asked one of her soldiers. Notice what? Velanara replied. The pulse. It feels like the ship is breathing. Now that he mentioned it, Velanara could feel it too. The ship did seem to be breathing, or at least pulsing with some kind of life rhythm. They reached the engineering section and found Team 4 standing around a large display panel. Their leader, Sergeant Kixenall, looked completely confused. Squad leader, look at these readings, he said, pointing at the screen. This reactor is producing more energy than should be physically possible. It is a fusion reactor designed to produce maybe 50,000 power units per hour. Right now, it is producing over 300,000 units per hour. That cannot be right, Velanara said. Check your instruments. We have checked them twice. The readings are correct. But that is not the strangest part. He led her to another panel. Look at this fuel consumption data. The reactor should have run out of fuel 2 days ago. But fuel levels are actually increasing. Velanara stared at the display. Increasing? How can fuel levels increase? We do not know. It is like the reactor is creating fuel faster than it uses it. Squad leader, came a call from her headset. It was Morden back on the bridge. I found another log. This one is from Chief Park herself, recorded just before the crew went into their sleep state. Play it, Velanara ordered. I cannot send it through the communication system. You need to come back to the bridge. But squad leader, I think you should know something. According to what I found, Chief Park did not just modify their reactor. She connected it to something else. Something that should not exist. Velanara felt the strange breathing pulse of the ship grow stronger around her. Whatever the humans had done to their vessel, it was something far beyond normal technology. And based on the recordings they had found, the human crew had willingly allowed it to happen to them. All teams, return to the bridge immediately, she ordered. We need to find out exactly what these humans discovered. As they made their way back through the corridors, the ship seemed to be watching them, waiting to reveal its secrets. Velanara and her team gathered on the bridge around the main computer console. Morden had found several more log entries, but this final recording from Chief Engineer Lisa Park was the most important one. The screen flickered to life, showing a human female with short dark hair and tired eyes. Behind her, alarm lights flashed red and yellow, and the sound of emergency warnings filled the air. She looked directly into the camera with determination. Chief Engineer's log, final entry. Lisa Park began. We have maybe 2 hours before complete power failure. The captain has given me permission to try the crystal integration project. She paused and looked around nervously. I know this goes against every safety protocol we have. I know it could kill us all, but we are going to die anyway if we do nothing. The camera shook as something exploded in the background. The crystals we found on that asteroid 3 months ago are not just pretty rocks. They are alive in some way. They respond to electrical fields and seem to understand our intentions. I have been studying them in secret, and I believe they can help us. Another explosion rocked the ship, and Lisa grabbed the console to steady herself. I am going to connect them directly to our reactor core. If this works, they might be able to boost our power systems beyond anything we thought possible. If it does not work, well, at least we tried something. The recording ended, leaving the Zephyrians staring at a blank screen. Crystals? Cartel said with confusion. She connected living crystals to their reactor? That is impossible, Sergeant Kixenel added. Crystals cannot be alive. And even if they were, connecting unknown alien technology to a fusion reactor would be suicide. Velanara felt a growing sense of unease. We need to see this reactor core for ourselves. Morden, can you access the ship's security footage from that time period? Yes, squad leader. I can pull up the engineering section cameras from 3 days ago. The screen changed to show a view of the ship's main engineering bay. At first, everything looked normal. Human crew members were working frantically at various stations, trying to repair damage and keep systems running. Then Lisa Park appeared in the image, carrying a large metal container. She set it down near the main reactor and opened it carefully. Inside were several crystal formations that seemed to glow with their own inner light. Look at those crystals, Cartel whispered. They are beautiful. The crystals were unlike anything the Zephyrians had ever seen. They were clear like glass, but had a deep blue-green color that seemed to pulse and swirl inside them. Each crystal was about the size of a human hand, and they all glowed with a soft, steady light. On the recording, Lisa began connecting cables from the crystals to various points on the reactor housing. As soon as the first connection was made, the crystal's glow became much brighter. Incredible, Cartel said. The crystal is responding to the electrical current. But then something unexpected happened. Instead of the crystal just glowing brighter, it began to change the reactor itself. Where the cables connected, the metal of the reactor started to take on the same blue-green glow as the crystal. That should not be possible, Kixenel said. Crystals cannot change metal. In the recording, Lisa connected more cables, and more sections of the reactor began to glow. Soon, the entire reactor core was pulsing with the same light as the crystals. But the most shocking thing happened next. The crystals began to grow. Slowly at first, then faster, they spread along the cables and into the reactor itself. It was like watching plants grow, but these were made of crystal and light. They are integrating with the ship's systems, Velanara observed. The crystals are becoming part of the reactor. Other human crew members in the recording looked amazed and frightened at the same time. The power readings on their displays began to climb rapidly. Within minutes, the ship's energy output had doubled, then tripled, but then something else started to happen. The human crew members began to look sleepy. One by one, they started sitting down and closing their eyes. It was not like they were fainting or collapsing. It was more like they were choosing to go to sleep. What is happening to them? One of Velinara's soldiers asked a dot in the recording. Lisa Park was the last one standing. She looked at the camera one more time and smiled. "It is working," she said softly. "The crystals are not just giving us power, they are keeping us safe. We need to trust them now." She sat down in a chair near the reactor and closed her eyes. Within seconds, she appeared to be in a deep sleep. The recording continued for several more minutes, showing the empty engineering bay with only the pulsing glow of the crystal-infected reactor. Then the video ended. "We need to see that reactor core right now," Velinara ordered. The team made their way back down to the engineering section. As they got closer, the strange breathing pulse of the ship became much stronger. The walls themselves seemed to be glowing faintly with the same blue-green light they had seen in the recording dot when they entered the main engineering bay. They all stopped and stared in amazement. The reactor core was completely transformed. What had once been a standard fusion reactor was now a beautiful combination of metal and crystal. The crystal formations had grown throughout the entire system, creating patterns that looked almost like artwork. "This is incredible," Cartel whispered. "The crystals have completely integrated with the ship's technology." The crystals pulsed with a steady rhythm, and with each pulse, energy readings on the displays climbed higher. The reactor was producing more power than should be physically possible. "Squad leader," Kixenel called out from another section. "You need to see this." He led them to a side chamber where they found something that made them all gasp. 47. Human crew members were lying on beds that had been connected to the crystal network. Thin crystal threads ran from the main formations to each person, connecting to their heads through some kind of neural interface. "They are all alive," Cartel confirmed, checking her bioscanner. "Their life signs are stable, but they are in some kind of deep sleep state." Each human had the same peaceful expression on their face. They looked like they were having pleasant dreams. The crystal threads that connected to their heads pulsed gently with the same rhythm as the main reactor. The crystals are keeping them alive, Velinara realized. When their ship was dying, they connected themselves to these alien organisms. "But why?" asked one of her soldiers. "Why would they trust unknown alien life forms with their lives?" Velinara studied the peaceful faces of the sleeping humans. Because they had no choice. Their ship was about to fail completely. This was their only chance to survive. She looked around at the crystal-covered reactor and the connected crew members. "But this is not just survival technology. Look at these power readings. This system is producing energy that should be impossible." These humans did not just save their lives. They discovered something that could change everything. The implications of what they were seeing began to sink in. If humans could form this kind of partnership with alien organisms, if they could create technology that worked beyond known physical laws, then everything the Zephyrians thought they knew about human capabilities was wrong. "Squad leader," Morden's voice came through the communicator from the bridge. "I found something else in the computer files. Something about where these crystals came from originally." "What did you find?" "According to the records, the humans did not steal these crystals or take them by force. They rescued them." Back on the bridge, Morden continued searching through the ship's computer files while Velinara and her team remained in the engineering section, studying the impossible crystal reactor fusion. The more they examined the system, the more questions they had. "Squad leader," Morden's voice came through the communicator. "I found the original mission reports about how the humans discovered these crystals. You are not going to believe this." "Tell me," Velinara replied, still staring at the sleeping human crew members connected to the crystal network. 3 months ago, the TCS Defender was on a routine patrol mission near the Kepler asteroid belt. They received a distress signal. But it was not from another ship. The signal was coming from inside a large asteroid that was breaking apart. Velinara moved closer to her communicator. A distress signal from inside an asteroid? Yes, Captain Morrison ordered his crew to investigate. When they scanned the asteroid, they found these crystal organisms trapped inside. The asteroid was collapsing due to gravitational stress, and the crystals were going to be crushed. So, the humans rescued them? More than that, squad leader. According to Chief Engineer Park's research notes, the crystals were trying to communicate with them. They were asking for help. Cartel looked up from her scanner with amazement. Crystals cannot communicate, they are just mineral formations. That is what the humans thought too at first, Morden continued. But Park's notes describe how the crystals began responding to their attempts at communication. They would glow brighter when the humans asked questions and dim when they said no. Velinara felt a chill run through her body. Are you saying these crystals are intelligent? According to Park's research, they are not just intelligent, they are ancient. Much older than any known civilization. She believed they exist in multiple dimensions at the same time. Sergeant Kixenol, who had been examining the reactor controls, suddenly straightened up. Squad leader, I just ran a deep scan on these crystal formations. My instruments show that they are definitely alive. But the energy patterns suggest they exist in at least 4 different dimensional layers simultaneously. That is impossible, one of the soldiers said. Nothing can exist in multiple dimensions. These can, Cartel confirmed, checking her own readings. And that explains why they can produce so much energy. They are drawing power from quantum fluctuations across multiple dimensional planes. Velinara tried to understand what she was hearing. So these humans found ancient, multi-dimensional beings trapped in an asteroid, and instead of studying them or selling them, they rescued them. That is exactly what they did, Morden confirmed. Captain Morrison's log entries show that he ordered the rescue operation even though it put his ship at risk. The asteroid was very unstable and they had to work quickly. Why would they take such a risk for unknown alien life forms? Because, according to the captain's logs, it was the right thing to do. He said that any species intelligent enough to call for help deserved to be saved. The implications of this began to sink in for all the Zephyrians. They had encountered many different alien species in their explorations, but they had never heard of any race that would risk their lives. To save unknown creatures, there is more, Morden continued. After the rescue, the crystals stayed with the humans for 3 months. Park's notes describe how they slowly learned to communicate better. The crystals were grateful for being saved. Grateful? Velinara repeated. Yes, and they wanted to offer something in return. They offered to share their abilities with the humans. Cartel looked around at the crystal formations surrounding them. So this partnership was their idea? According to the records, yes. But the crystals warned the humans that the partnership would require complete trust. The humans would have to allow the crystals to partially merge with their consciousness. Now Velinara understood why the human crew members were in such a deep sleep state. They are not just sleeping, they are sharing their minds with the crystals. That is correct. Park's final research notes describe the process. The crystals can keep the humans alive and enhance their ship's capabilities, but only if the humans trust them completely and allow the mental connection. One of Velinara's soldiers shook his head in disbelief. No intelligent species would allow alien beings to merge with their minds. It would be too dangerous. But the humans did it, Fixnell observed, and it worked. Look at these power readings. This ship is now more advanced than anything in our fleet. Velinara studied the peaceful faces of the sleeping humans again. They were dying. Their ship was about to fail completely. They had to choose between certain death and trusting these alien beings. Most species would choose death over mental invasion, Cartel said. But humans are not most species, Velinara realized. They chose trust over fear. Squad leader, Morden called through the communicator again. I found something else. A message from the crystals themselves. The crystals left a message? Yes. They learn to use the ship's computer systems. The message is addressed to anyone who might find this ship. Play it. The main display screen in the engineering bay flickered to life. Instead of showing a person, it showed swirling patterns of light that seemed to move in 3 dimensions. A voice spoke, but it was unlike any voice they had ever heard. It sounded like music and whispers and wind all at the same time. Greetings. To those who find this vessel, the voice said through their translation systems. We are the ones you might call the star crystals. We exist across many layers of reality, and we have traveled the cosmos for longer than your civilizations have. Existed. The light patterns on the screen swirled and changed colors as the voice continued. The beings you call humans discovered us when we were trapped and dying. They risked their own safety to save us, asking for nothing in return. This act of pure compassion was something we had not experienced in many millennia. Velanara and her team listened in fascination as the ancient beings continued their message. In gratitude, we offered to share our abilities with these remarkable creatures. We warned them of the risks, but they chose to trust us completely. This level of trust is rare among the species we have encountered. The voice paused and the light patterns became brighter. We have learned much from our human partners. Their capacity for hope, friendship, and sacrifice is extraordinary. They do not see cooperation as weakness, but as strength. What you see here is not conquest or theft of technology. It is true partnership between species that chose to trust each other completely. The humans sleep peacefully because they know we will protect them, and we share our power with them because they proved worthy of our gift. The message continued for several more minutes, describing how the partnership worked and how it had saved the ship during the battle. When it ended, the engineering bay fell silent except for the gentle pulsing of the crystal formations. Velanara looked around at her team. Every Zephyrian face showed the same expression of amazement and confusion. They had come here expecting to find standard human technology and perhaps some useful intelligence. Instead, they had discovered something that challenged everything they thought they knew about humans and about the nature of cooperation itself. As the crystal being's message ended, something began to change throughout the ship. The gentle pulsing of the crystal formations started to speed up, and the blue-green light became brighter. Velanara and her team noticed that the energy readings on all the displays were climbing even higher. Squad leader, Cartel said with concern, something is happening. The crystals are becoming more active. Before Velanara could respond, a new voice came through the ship's communication system. This voice was definitely human, but it sounded different somehow. Stronger and more confident than the tired voices they had heard in the old recordings. Attention to all visitors aboard our vessel, the voice said calmly. We are aware of your presence and we are awakening now. Please do not be alarmed. We mean you no harm. Velanara grabbed her weapon instinctively, then forced herself to relax. This is Lieutenant Velanara of the Zephyrian Fleet. Identify yourself. This is Captain Jake Morrison of the TCS Defender. We have been monitoring your investigation through our ship's sensors. We appreciate your careful examination of our vessel, and we understand your confusion about what you have found. In the engineering bay, the human crew members connected to the crystal network began to stir. Their eyes opened slowly, but instead of the normal human eye color, their eyes now had flecks of the same blue-green light as the crystals, one by one. The humans sat up on their beds, but they did not disconnect from the crystal threads. Instead, they seemed to be communicating with the crystals through their mental connection. Do not be afraid, said a human woman who appeared to be Chief Engineer Lisa Park. Her voice had the same confident quality as the captain's. The awakening process takes a few minutes. We have been in deep partnership with our crystal friends for 3 days now. Velanara watched in amazement as the humans began to move around the engineering bay. They moved with a grace and coordination that seemed impossible. It was as if they knew exactly what each other was thinking. Squad leader, Kixenal whispered, look at their movements. They are working together like a single organism. The humans were indeed moving in perfect synchronization. When one person reached for a control panel, another would automatically move to support them. When someone needed a tool, another crew member would hand it to them before they even asked. This is not normal human behavior, Cartel observed. Chief Park heard her comment and smiled. You are right. This is not how we used to be. The partnership with our crystal friends has changed us. We can share thoughts and emotions with each other now. It makes us much more efficient as a crew. Captain Morrison's voice came through the speakers again. Lieutenant Velanara, would you and your team like to meet on the bridge? I think we should talk about what you have discovered here. Velanara hesitated. Meeting with humans who had been altered by alien organisms seemed very dangerous. But her curiosity was stronger than her fear. We will come to the bridge, but my team will remain armed. Of course. We understand your caution. The Zephyrian team made their way back to the bridge, passing more human crew members along the way. Each human they encountered had the same peaceful expression and the same blue-green flecks in their eyes. None of them seemed threatening, but their synchronized movements were unsettling. When they reached the bridge, they found Captain Morrison waiting for them. He was a tall human with gray hair and kind eyes that now sparkled with crystal light. He stood calmly beside the captain's chair, showing no fear of the armed aliens. Welcome aboard the TCS Defender, he said with a genuine smile. I apologize for the unusual circumstances of our meeting. Captain Morrison, Velanara began carefully, what exactly has happened to you and your crew? We have evolved, he replied simply. When our ship was dying, our crystal partners offered us a choice. We could die as we were, or we could trust them completely and become something new. And you chose to become something new? We chose to live, but more than that, we chose to grow. The partnership has not just saved our lives. It has made us better than we were before. Morrison gestured to his crew members who were working at various stations around the bridge. We can share knowledge instantly now. When our engineer learns something new, we all learn it. When our navigator finds a new route, we all understand it immediately. That sounds like you have lost your individual identity, Velanara said. Not at all. We are still ourselves, but we are also more than ourselves. Think of it like a family that can truly understand each other. Chief Park stepped forward. Lieutenant, we know this is difficult to understand. Before the partnership, we would have been just as confused as you are now. But we want you to know that we made this choice freely. And the crystals? Velanara asked. What do they gain from this partnership? Friendship, Morrison replied. Our crystal partners have been alone for thousands of years. They are ancient beings who have seen many civilizations rise and fall. But they had never found a species willing to trust them completely. Most species see them as either dangerous or as tools to be used, Park added. We saw them as friends who needed help. Velanara tried to process what she was hearing. So, this technology, this impossible power source, it is all based on friendship? On trust, Morrison corrected. The crystals share their abilities with us because they know we will never hurt them or use their power for evil purposes. Suddenly, Velanara realized the full implications of what she had discovered. She turned to her team. Do you understand what this means? These humans have not just survived a battle. They have formed an alliance with beings that exist across multiple dimensions. This makes them potentially more powerful than any known civilization. Morrison seemed to read her thoughts. Lieutenant, I know you are thinking about whether to report this discovery to your superiors. I know you are wondering if we represent a threat to your people. Do you? Velanara asked directly. Only if your people choose to make us a threat? We have no desire for conquest or expansion. We are explorers and protectors, not conquerors. But you could be conquerors if you wanted. To be, Morrison nodded sadly. Yes, we could. The Crystal Partnership has given us capabilities we never imagined. But that is not who we are. To prove his point, Morrison did something that stunned all the Zephyrians. He ordered his crew to power down their weapon systems completely. Captain, Park said with concern, that leaves us defenseless if they choose to attack. Yes, it does, Morrison replied, looking directly at Velinara. But it also proves that we trust them not to attack us. Velinara stared at the human captain in disbelief. You are making yourself completely vulnerable to us, just as we made ourselves completely vulnerable to our crystal partners. Trust has to start somewhere, Lieutenant. We choose to start it now. The bridge fell silent as Velinara considered her options. She could order her team to capture the ship and bring it back to Zephyrian space for study. She could call for reinforcements and try to destroy this new threat before it could spread. Or she could do what the humans had done and choose trust over fear. Captain Morrison, she said finally, I have a choice to make. I can report this discovery and recommend that my people treat you as a threat. Or I can recommend that we try to learn from you. What will you choose? Morrison asked. Velinara looked around at the peaceful human faces, at the beautiful crystal formations that pulsed with gentle light, and at the impossible technology that worked through friendship rather than force. I choose to trust, she said.